Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Mariela. Hello, Rocio. Hello, people.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Well, well, there are a lot of people here. Well, good morning, everyone, again. To those who have just entered the session, we have a visit today. Mariela Cole has entered the session in order to say hello. She's not going to speak much. She's going to use perhaps sign language. No. She's going to tell us just a few things, but she cannot speak much. So, Mariela, welcome. We can hear you.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. It's great to see you, but I thought that you were that I was going to see your faces with your cameras on, but I just see your names. Just to insist that you register at the campus, please. I saw that some students have already registered last night, but there are only 50 students. And there are many people here who have not registered yet. We need to know why you have not registered yet. Is there any problem? You don't know how to do it? You tell the teachers, and I'm just going to check attendance, and that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mariela. So listen, it is very important that once you have registered at the faculty, now you do it. You do the same. Do the same in our subject. So we need it because if you don't do that, you won't be able to do the written test. So we need all the students registered on the list of our subject on the campus. So please do it. And if there are problems, well, you may send what, Mariela? Can they send you an email? Write your address. Sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't allow a student to come in. Oh, sorry. Well, no, yes, now he's here again. Sorry. Mateo, you can join the room, the meeting, the session. sorry for not accepting you the first time. I made a mistake. Sorry. Well, before the first week of May. Yes, this is important. So you have up to now the last days of April and perhaps the first 2 days in May, and that's it. We need you to be on our list. So don't forget to do it, please, to register on the campus, because and this will enable you to how do you say, to see the material we have uploaded there. Well, yes, there are the possibilities for the pictures to be shown. Mariela is 40, so there are 44 students, and there are 4 whose names we can't see. But well, yeah, I think that it's okay. Well, you had as a homework, as assignment, let's not call it homework, but assignment. Yes, Mariela writes that being on the campus, we can interact. That's true too. Yes, so there are advantages for of the fact that you are students on the campus. There are advantages for that. For today, I told you, I asked you to do exercise 21 from the workbook. No, thank you, Mariela. Thank you very much for visiting us and for giving us your message. Okay. In this exercise, exercise 21, which I don't have to show for you for us to look on the screen, but you have your book, and what you had to do in this exercise, is to identify each verb phrase in the sentences below, call the first number 1 and so on, and then indicate whether each verb phrase is finite or non-finite. If finite, say whether it is in the present, in present or past tense, in the indicative, imperative, or subjunctive mood, if it has overt concord, quoted subject. If non-finite, say whether it is the infinitive, the ing form, or ed participle. Well, I hope you haven't got scared of all these names, but there are things you can do, and some others for some others you will need some help. But I think that the most part of the exercise, the most important part, could be done, and this is underlining or identifying the verb phrases, and then indicating if they are finite or non-finite. Well, we haven't studied the moods, but the indicative mood is that mood used in questions, in affirmative and negative statements. The imperative is used in commands, and that starts with the verb directly. And the subjunctive, well, I'm going to indicate which sentences are in the subjunctive, is the mood used to express wishes, to express non-factual situations, etc. Well, the very first sentence, the very first verb phrase is difficult because there is ellipsis. Something is missing there because the question is just, it is a question, and you have the verb, just that. Die, doctor, that is the intonation for that. Die, doctor, expressing perhaps surprise. So, which is the verb phrase there? I need your cooperation, because if not, we don't learn. I need your cooperation, please, when answering this exercise. What is the verb phrase there? Nobody can say a word about this?
Die?
Die, yes. Renata, thank you. Die. And what do you think about that? Is it finite or non-finite? Because we have just the verb. So we assume that we should think better. We should think of the complete question in order to know if this is finite or not finite. Die, doctor? This is the last thing I intend to do. So die, doctor would come from which question? Or from which sentence? Perhaps this comes from, will I die, doctor? Will I die? Or shall I die? So what is die in that case, if it follows the modal shall?
It's not finite.
It's non-finite. Very good, Florence. It's non-finite. It is the bare infinitive. Page 16. Gladys Suarez says that it is non-finite. Very good. It is the bare infinitive, and it is the base form of the verb. Perhaps the question is, am I going to die? In which case, to has been ellipted. But I think we're going to think that the question was, shall I die? And this is the last thing I intend to do. So die, doctor, die is non-finite, and it is the bare infinitive form, because we assume that it follows the auxiliary will, shall better. In the second part, which verb phrases do we have? It says, that is the last thing I intend to do. Which verb phrases do we have there?
Is.
Is, very good. Is. Is that finite or non-finite?
Finite.
Finite, very good. It is finite. And then what else?
I intend to do.
We have intend to do. So in that case, we can consider intend to do a verb phrase where intend is a catenative verb. Remember that we saw in the classes of verbs, we saw the catenatives, that is say they form a sort of change of verbs. So intend to do would be a phrase where the first verb intend is finite or non-finite. Well, there is an agreement between the subject I and the verb intend. And intend is followed by to do, sorry. So here, intend is finite. And it is a catenative verb followed by a to do, which is a non-finite verb form.
Teacher, sorry.
Pardon?
The verb phrase sería solamente intend y aparte to do, o sería todo junto?
No. I is the subject.
No. Intend to do.
Intend to do is the verb phrase. Thank you.
Todo junto. Okay. Thank you.
Intend to do. So intend is finite, so the verb phrase intend to do is finite. Correct? What? The first sentence was not very easy, but we are going to continue. Let's see what we find. The other one says, die, traitor. What is die? What sort of sentence is that? If somebody tells another person, die, traitor.
An imperative?
It's imperative.
Very good, it is imperative. Who answered that?
I was. Sorry, teacher, I have problems with my internet.
Yes, but we can hear you. Don't worry.
Okay.
So it is imperative. If this is imperative mood, so this die is finite. This die in the imperative mood is finite. Muere traidor. Die traitor. So the verb phrase is finite, the verb die is finite. Well, then we continue. Every man found guilty of treachery pays the penalty. Wow. Which verb phrases do we have here?
Found.
Is finite.
Which one?
Every man found.
But what is the verb phrase?
Found.
Subject, verb, and the last part I don't.
So it says, every man found guilty of treachery. This is the subject. Found, yes, comes from every man who is found. So what is that? This is the passive voice. The verb to be is not present. So found is non-finite. Yes? Is non-finite because it is the past participle form of in the passive voice. And which is the finite verb phrase there? Which is the main verb in the main verb phrase in the sentence? Pays. Yes? Pays. Is it finite or non-finite? It is the S form of the verb.
Finite.
It's finite. Very good. Finite. And this is in agreement with the subject. It says every man. This is singular. So it takes pays, right? Then we have.
So the
Yes.
every man found guilty is non-finite, and what form of the verb?
Sorry, what is non-finite is the verb phrase found.
Yes. Only the verb.
Only the verb. We are dealing with verb phrases here. So that is
Okay.
what I was telling you is that the subject of the sentence is every man found guilty of treachery. But within that phrase, we have the non-finite verb form found. This is in Spanish, cada hombre encontrado culpable de traición then pays the penalty. Pays is finite. Well, I don't think it is advisable to continue with this exercise if you don't understand the whole thing. I will tell you to continue working on it. We'll check it next class, but you have to work, please. If you don't answer questions, you don't participate, this is impossible. So I know that the exercise is difficult, but we are going to reduce it to identifying the verb phrases and saying if they are finite or non-finite. This is what you have to do for next class. Please do it, and we'll check it next class. Because if not, we are going to miss too much time, and we have other things to do, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, teacher.
Well, we're going to continue with our task, with our material. Well, we were dealing with the syntactic classification of verbs. Yes, remember that. Why is the classification syntactic? This is a question I asked in the written tests, in the final exams. So please try to remember the answer. Why is the classification of verbs, this classification, syntactic? The very first line says that verbs can be classified from the syntactic and the semantic points of view. Points of view. When is it syntactic? And what is the classification of the verbs from the syntactic point of view? It can be classified into extensive and intensive. We're going to see why it is syntactic. The extensive verbs fall into the groups intransitive and transitive. And intensive verbs are also called copular or linking. Good. What is an intransitive verb?
Ever without
When
object.
Without any object or complement. That is to say that the position that follows an intransitive verb is empty. There is no obligatory element there. But there are some intransitive verbs that demand, remember that, try to recall that, there are intransitive verbs that require an obligatory adverbial. What is a transitive verb?
It needs an object.
It needs at least an object. Very good. And what is a copular or linking verb?
It needs a complement. Obligatory.
It needs,
Following adjective noun.
sorry, it's followed by
An adjective or a noun.
an adjective phrase or a noun phrase. Correct. And this adjective phrase or noun phrase is called complement. So, what are we considering when classifying the verb? The unit that follows or precedes the verb?
Follow.
Sorry? I couldn't hear, sorry.
What follows of After the
What
verb.
follows? Very good. What follows the verb? So we say intransitive verbs are not followed by any obligatory unit. Transitive verbs are followed by at least one object. Complements are followed by a complement. Linking verbs are followed by a complement. So what we are considering here in the syntactic classification is the relationship of the verbs with another unit that is determined by the verb. That's why the classification is syntactic. We take into account the position of the elements and the relationship of the elements. So is it clear now why the classification is syntactic?
Yes, teacher.
Okay.
Sorry, teacher.
Yes.
Could you repeat the explanation more clearly
Well,
in an
so
easy way?
in an easy way.
I don't know.
So we are dealing with a syntactic classification of verbs. And there is another which is semantic. Well, what is the difference? Why do we speak of a syntactic classification? Syntactic comes from the word syntax. So we take into account the syntax of the sentence, of the elements. Well, what we pay attention to in this case is the relationship of the verb phrase with another element that is determined by the verb. So a verb phrase is followed by another element or no element at all. When there is no obligatory element following the verb, we speak of intransitive verbs, such as die, the one you had in the exercise. Yes? And there are other verbs that are intransitive but require an obligatory adverbial. For example, live frugally, live happily. And then we have transitive verbs which must be followed by at least one object. So what we consider in the syntactic classification is the relationship of the verb phrase and the element that follows. This element that follows the verb is determined by the verb, not by any other unit in the sentence. Was it clear now or not?
Yes.
Yes, thanks.
Well, so in the syntax, we consider the relationship of elements in the sentence. In the case of the verb phrase, in particular, what we are seeing now is that the verb phrases are followed by a certain element. And this makes the verb transitive or intransitive. Well, in the case of the intransitive, nothing follows except in those verbs that require an obligatory adverbial. In the case of transitive verbs, well, we have one object or more objects, or an object followed by a complement. Remember that there are different cases. And in the case of linking verbs, what follows the verb is the complement. It is either an adjective phrase or a noun phrase. Well, we'll insist on this until you understand it and until it is easy to understand. We gave examples of verbs which are intransitive. Well, no, sorry. We gave examples of verbs that can fall into different categories: drive, go, grow, get, keep, etc. We saw intransitive verbs, and the symbol for intransitive verbs is SV or SVA. Then we saw transitive verbs, which are divided into monotransitive, when the verb has just one object, ditransitive, when the verb has two objects, There are no more possibilities. It is one or two objects. Yes? Other verbs are followed by an object and a complement, and others are followed by an obligatory, obviously, an obligatory object and an adverbial. And we saw examples of this. Finally, we saw copulative verbs, and the pattern is, in copulative verbs, is SVC. What is a complement? Well, we said that the complement may be realized by an adjective phrase, or by a noun phrase. Something you told me and you were right in that. Well, we had, last class we began with a classification with the copulative verbs and read and explained copulative verbs number 1, that is to say verbs of appearance, appear, seem, look. Verbs of the senses, taste, sound, feel, sleep. And I wrote a series of sentences something I want to tell you so that you have all the things I write on the notes. I'm not going to upload the handout, this handout. What I would like you to do is to do the following. Print, download this, print it, and then have it at hand during the classes. And when I write something, you add it. Yes, add it to the handout you have. I think that this will be more satisfactory than if you copy what I have given you. So please print the handout and work on that. Well, this is it. We said verbs of the senses, taste, sound, feel, smell. And I wrote the sentences, the soup tastes good. From the syntactic point of view, this is a copulative verb because it is followed by the complement good. We cannot say the soup tastes good. Different from the waiter tasted the soup, because the soup is the direct object. So tasted here is monotransitive. Then we have sound. His voice sounds strange. So strange is the complement, and it is an adjective phrase. The sun feels warm. Warm is the complement of the verb feel. Or the sentence, the surface feels rough. And we said that feel can follow in another category. So feel can also be transitive. So don't confuse them. When these verbs are followed by an adjective phrase or a noun phrase, particularly an adjective phrase, they are copulative verbs. When they are followed by a noun phrase, they are transitive verbs. With feel, we said, the doctor felt the patient's pulse. In this case, it is transitive, SVO. Then we have the other verb we mentioned here. The final one was smell. And we wrote sentences here. The perfume smells delicious or sweet. We have SVC. Delicious is the complement of the verb smell. But smell can also be followed by a noun phrase, in which case it is a transitive verb. She smelled the bottle of perfume. She smelled the perfume. She smelled the roses. She smelled the roses. Well, and here I'm going to read the comments. So far, do you have any questions of this review about?
No.
No? Excuse me for a while. Okay. Well, transitive, copulative. Here, there are some notes about group C1, let's say the verbs of appearance. It says that the verbs of appearance, that you say look, seem, appear, can take abstract nouns for subjects. For example, now his happiness seems complete. Happiness is an abstract noun. It refers to a state. It is not tangible. We cannot take, we cannot touch, we cannot perceive through the eyes, for example, the thing to which it refers to. Joe seems sad today. Noel appears to be or appears cheerful now. Verbs in group 2C can be illustrated as follows. Remember, which is group C2, verbs of the senses. Taste, sound, feel, smell. They are called verbs of the senses, remember that, recall that, because these are the verbs that are related to the different senses. We perceive through the eyes, through the ears. So we have all the verbs that are related to the senses. Taste, sound, feel, smell. Here we have the sentences. The steak tastes delicious. So remember, taste is a copulative verb followed by an adjective phrase. Not deliciously. Be careful with that. Not deliciously. The warm sun feels good. Her reply didn't sound sincere. His laugh sounds cruel. The piece of wood feels rough. Your perfume smells very good. Well, all the different verbs. Now we are going to see group C, C3, verbs of action. Why are they called verbs of action? Because they denote processes. They say in a way, they denote processes. Which are the verbs that go in this group? Turn, grow, go. We have already seen these verbs in other groups, grow and go. And turn also can follow in other groups. Now, what does it make these verbs be copulative? which is the unit that has to follow it, to follow them. When they are linking verbs, what's a unit that follows them?
An adjective or noun phrase.
Right, the complement. So don't forget that. Let's see the examples. So the verbs here, we are here. The verbs in group C3 denote processes. Therefore, and this is very important, therefore they can be used in the progressive and take adverbs of manner. This is the only group of verbs, of these copulative verbs that can be used in the progressive. The other verbs can't. The other copulative verbs can't. And take adverbs of manner, because adverbs of manner denote how something is done. It indicates a process. In autumn, leaves turn yellow or brown gradually. So here you have the adverb I'm mentioning. Gradually is an adverbial of manner. In autumn, leaves turn yellow or brown gradually. The boy was turning blue for lack of oxygen, because he was choking. So the boy was turning blue. Here we have the sentence in the progressive, was turning blue for lack of oxygen. Another one that can be used in the progressive is get. For example, getting mad, getting annoyed, etc. There is a process, there is a change of state. The other sentence, well, the important thing, the example itself here is this one, but we need the introduction. If you don't keep the cake in the fridge, its topping will turn sour. If you don't keep the cake in the fridge, its topping will turn sour. Or here we can also say will go sour. Sadly, here, my pet is growing old and is going blind. Growing old, se está haciendo viejo, and is going blind, y se está poniendo ciego. The expression is a set expression, to go blind. To go blind, not to turn blind, for example. To go blind. Well, all this you have to study and learn, as in most of the cases you have certain idioms, certain idiomatic expressions that you have to remember. It says the verb turn, the one we have used here, is also used to indicate change of occupation or allegiance. It indicates change of occupation. Well, you know, the occupation, what somebody does for a living, for example, or allegiance refers to a religion or to political ideas. Yes? Es en lo que se cree, en lo que se sigue. It is followed, be careful with this. In this case, turn is followed by a noun phrase as complement. By a noun phrase, not an adjective phrase. And we have as example, the spy turned traitor. He turned socialist after the general elections. This in turns, for example, if it says he turned socialist, this indicates allegiance. Well, pay attention to this and write it down, please, if necessary. Here, when you have turn indicating allegiance, as a copulative verb followed by a noun, the article is not used. We don't say the spy turned a traitor, but traitor just. just that, without the determiner a. Well, these are the verbs that, and then, wait a minute. We have turn, get, scrolling out, etc. Well, now verb form, the group 4. In this group, which is not really a group, it has only one element, which is become. Become also denotes a process. What is the meaning of become? Volverse. So here we have the example, suddenly the bees became angry, got angry, got could also be used here, became angry, and soon they were humming above our heads. Marvin, here we have a noun phrase. Here we have the verb plus adjective phrase. And here we have become verb followed by a noun phrase. The boy was to become a great leader. Here we have again noun phrase. After a few weeks, having tea together became a pleasant habit. Became a pleasant habit. Here the verb become is followed by a noun phrase. So, become. Let's see the characteristics. Become can be followed by which units as complement? This is the question for you to answer.
An adverbial phrase or a noun phrase?
An adverbial phrase?
Or a noun phrase?
A noun phrase or an adjective phrase? Not another phrase.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes, copulative verbs are not followed by other phrases. Adjective phrase and or noun phrase. Very good. And finally, we have the verbs in group C5. And which are the verbs? Stay and remain. Stay and remain. When they are copulative verbs, seem to share all the properties of the verb to be. That is, they can take adjective phrases and noun phrases as complement as well as adverbials. This is a very special case. Stay and remain, then, are very similar to the verb to be. The verb to be can take 3 forms. The verb to be can be followed by different units. Yes? Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so the verb to be can be followed by a noun phrase. Be patient, I'm going to do this. What else? Which is the other unit that the verb to be can be followed by? An adjective phrase.
Adverbial phrase.
And an adverbial phrase. So, adjective phrase. And by an adverbial phrase. An adverbial. And the adverbial can be another phrase. Well, here we have. So the verb phrase, the verb to be is followed by this, maybe followed by these units: noun phrase, adjective phrase, or adverbial. The same happens with these verbs. Here we have it. I'm going to read again. The verbs in groups 5, stay and remain, when used as copulative verbs, seem to share the properties of the verb to be. That is to say, they can take adjective phrases and noun phrases as complement, as well as adverbials. The adverbial can be an adjective phrase, an adverb phrase, or a clause, for example. So I'm not going to take time doing this, but you can write it by yourselves. Here, you write stay and remain. Stay and remain. And do the same as I have done here. Followed by noun phrases. Noun phrase, adjective phrase, adverbial. Well, you draw the arrows, right? Well, then we'll read the examples. Mr. Tomlinson stayed chairman for a year. How would you translate this sentence? Mr. Tomlinson stayed chairman for a year. Know what the chairman is?
No, teacher.
No, is the president, what we would call the president of a committee, for example, is the man who uses the chair that is the most important place in a meeting. So this is the chairman, el presidente. So Mr. Tomlinson stayed chairman for a year, chairman of a committee, for example. So what is chair?
Se quedó en la presidencia por un año.
Exactamente. Very good. So we have stay plus what here? What is chairman? There is no article, but this is a
Noun phrase.
A noun phrase. So we have here stay plus noun phrase. Good. Then we have John stayed happy all day. John stayed happy all day. How would you translate it?
John permaneció feliz todo el día.
Se mantuvo feliz. Yes. Plus, here we have plus adjective phrase. Good. Then we have the two groups of students stayed in the classroom for 1 hour. Well, I have written it here. The two groups of students stayed in the classroom. So this is the obligatory unit. And what is in the classroom?
Prepositional phrase.
Very good. A prepositional phrase that functions as adverbial. That's why we have here the A. Yes? So here, stay plus prepositional phrase, which is the adverbial. The following. The following would be, is, in spite of their quarrel, they remain the best friends, the best of friends. In spite of their quarrel, they remained the best of friends.
Noun phrase.
A noun phrase. So this is an expression you could learn. They remain the best of friends. So we have remain plus noun phrase. Now the sentence, the defendant remained silent. The defendant remained silent. You know who the defendant is? This word is rather misleading. Pardon?
Defensor.
No. No, that's why I say it is rather misleading because you think of the person defending somebody.
El acusado.
Yes, el acusado. Very good. The defendant remained silent. So here we have remain plus what is silent? A noun phrase or an adjective phrase?
Adjective. Noun phrase.
No, silent is an adjective. Silence is a noun. So in this case, remain is followed by an adjective phrase. In Spanish, we would say, el acusado permaneció en silencio. Nosotros no decimos silencioso, permaneció en silencio. But in English, we have remained silent, and silent is an adjective, right? Then, the aircraft remained on the ground for 5 minutes. The aircraft, what is an aircraft? A plane. The airplane, un avión. The aircraft remained on the ground for 5 minutes, for 5 more minutes. What is this? Well, we have that remain is followed by what is on the ground?
Adverbial.
An adverbial. Yes, it is a prepositional verb, prepositional phrase, sorry, that functions as adverbial. Well, you are supposed to read and study all this. It is impossible to learn all the verbs by heart. So what I advise you to do is to write examples, look up examples in the dictionary, and this is the way of learning them. Right? Well, then we have an exercise here, but we are going to leave this until you can, digest all the information. And I will suggest we have a break now, not later, now. Then we are going to attempt the exercise. I don't know you, but I'm a bit tired. Yes? So it is, we can have a break up to 11:35. Yes? Do you want a break or not?
Okay. Okay.
Yes, teacher.
Hasta las y 35. Bueno. See you later. Bye-bye. Well, here we are, ready to continue working. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me see. Well, I'll wait for a while for all students to come in. In the meantime, get ready to do the first exercise you have there in the practice work. Syntactic classification of verbs. Start underlining the verb phrases in the first exercise. Underlining the verb phrases. Well, the exercise says that what you have to underline is the main verbs, not the verb phrases. Well, underline the main verbs and classify them syntactically. That is to say, into extensive, transitive, and intransitive. And intransitive, intensive, or copulative. Write the sentence pattern in each case. I'll give you 7 minutes to do this. Well, are you ready? Are you ready?
No, teacher. In 2 minutes.
Okay, okay, I will wait. Well, we're going to check. All right. So you have been given 10 sentences, and in these sentences, you have to underline the main verbs and classify them from the syntactic point of view. That is to say, taking into account the unit that follows it. If it is an object, if it is a complement, an adverbial, etc. Well, and you are asked after that to write the pattern of the sentence. Number one, it says COVID-19 is a very contagious virus. Well, what is the verb phrase there? Erika says that it is an SVC sentence. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Copulative.
Wait a minute, I cannot write. Can you see what I'm showing?
Yes.
Okay. What is the subject of the sentence? We're going to revise some other items too. What's the subject of the sentence?
COVID-19.
Good. COVID-19. The verb is the verb to be is, yes, Maria?
Sorry.
And what is the phrase, a very contagious virus? What type of phrase is that?
Adjectival phrase.
No. Which is the most important word, the one that cannot be absent? Yes. Juliana says that it is a noun phrase. Yes, because the most important word is virus. And what is virus? Virus is a noun, right? So a very, and you have an article here, a very contagious virus is a noun phrase. And this noun phrase functions as complement. Well, we have the verb to be. There is a complement involved. What type of verb is the verb to be?
Copulative.
Yes, copulative. Remember that the stress is on the first syllable. Copulative. Good. What else are you supposed to do? To tell, it is copulative and it is also called intensive. Very good. So the verb.
The same, intensive as copulative.
The thing is that the classification is into extensive and intensive. In this contrast, you should use the name intensive. But in an intensive verb is a copulative verb. So they are almost synonyms, but not exactly, right? Well, number two, volunteers have taken many infected people to the COVID area lately.
SVOA
Volunteers have, which is a verb?
is have taken.
Well, have taken is a verb phrase, correct. Verb phrase. The verb is, the lexical verb is taken.
Taken.
Mm-hmm. Which are the other constituents? Which is the subject? First of all, what was the subject? Volunteers. Volunteers. Mm-hmm. Have taken. What else?
Many infected people.
Very good. Many infected, no, not many infected, many infected people, sorry. To the COVID area. And what about lately? Is it goes together with COVID area or does it go alone? Remember that they express different meanings. To the COVID area is an adverbial of yes, Juliana, it goes alone. To the COVID area is an adverbial of place. And lately is an adverbial of time. Good. Now let's concentrate on the verb. The verb is taken. Why is it the past participle form? Why do we have taken and not take?
Because of have.
Because of have. Which letter would you think this phrase belongs to? The perfective, remember, is be. Have taken is be. Good. Well, now, so the pattern, somebody said, I think it was Florencia, that the pattern is the OA. Is that correct? Which is the adverbial that is really the obligatory element in the sentence? The adverbial of place or the adverbial of time?
Place.
Of place. If we write, volunteers have taken many infected people to the COVID area, the sentence is grammatical, but not if we leave out to the COVID area. So volunteers have taken many infected people lately. Something is missing. So the obligatory adverbial is this one. Okay. The pattern is SVOA. Any questions about this?
No.
No.
Right. Well, now we have Russian scientists called the first vaccine Sputnik.
Call is the main verb.
Called, very good, is the main verb. So the verb phrase consists only, consists only of the lexical verb called. Why? Because the sentence is in the simple past, so no auxiliaries are used. Yes, who wants to ask a question?
The pattern can be SVOC.
Called the first vaccine Sputnik. SVOC, very good. Which is the direct object and which is a complement?
The direct object is the first vaccine, including the complement.
Very good. So here we are going to mark the subject. So we are reviewing for the written test. The subject, and we have called is the verb element. The first vaccine, Sputnik. Good. Good. Now the following. Not surprisingly, nurses must keep the vaccine, in a safe place.
SVOA.
Right. So keep. Remember, the one that can fall into different categories, into different classes. In this case, the pattern is can you repeat, please?
SVOA.
SVOA. Which is the subject? Who's answering? Josefina?
Yes.
Who's answering? Yes. Please, Josefina, what is the subject in the sentence?
Nurses.
Very good. Nurses. Nurses. And here we have the verb phrase must keep, the vaccines in a safe place. Very good. The verb phrase says must keep. We have a modal. Which letter would you give to this? Which is
A.
the letter? Eh?
Letter A.
A, very good, letter A. And what is the phrase not surprisingly? In an initial position, is it preceding the subject? We have written this on purpose for you to understand and to notice that not always does the subject is in initial position. So you have, not surprisingly, is an adverbial, and it may precede the subject. So this is an adverbial, but we don't write it in the pattern. You may see that there is no adverbial before the S because this is optional. The obligatory elements are the subject, the verb, the direct object, and a place, an adverbial. Is that clear?
Yes.
A similar adverbial in that position could be seriously, fortunately, unfortunately, obviously, etc. These are adverbials that can occur in initial position. Well, let's deal with sentence number 5. Obviously, no, sorry, number 5. This morning, the governor has signed different urgent documents in San Juan. Who can do it?
It SVO.
Volunteers, shall I name somebody? Renata, are you ready to do it?
Yeah. Is SVO, SVOA.
Maria, what do you want to say?
Is VO.
Yes, SVO. And what about the adverbials?
This morning in San Juan.
Right. And should we include it in the pattern? Include them in the pattern?
They are optional.
They are optional. Very good. So we have, what is the subject?
The governor.
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 Then we have has signed. In San Juan. Now, The verb phrase says has signed. Which letter would you assign to this pattern?
B.
To this form of the verb phrase?
B.
B. Very good. Which form of the verb is signed here?
Past participle.
Very good. Past participle form. Good. So the verb here is transitive, monotransitive, SVO, monotransitive. Good. Let's see the following. Obviously, statistics showed an increase last week.
In that case, last week is optional or obligatory?
It is optional.
Oh,
The verb increase, yes, the verb increase is intransitive. So we have, again, an adverbial in initial position, which is optional. Statistics.
the subject.
The subject.
Show the verb and increase the direct object.
An increase, yes, this is rather incomplete. An increase of ill people, of patients. I'm going to add it. Last week. The pattern is
SVO.
SVO.
Is intransitive the verb?
Sorry. No, it is transitive. Showed an increase of patients.
Monotransitive.
Did I say intransitive? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So it's monotransitive?
Monotransitive, yes.
Okay.
SVO. Well, authorities equipped the stadium for an emergency. Let's see, Julio Silva, can you do it? Would you like to do it?
Which one? Sorry,
Number 7.
number 7. Could you show it? Could you show it in the screen because I'm walking on the street?
Because you are?
I am in the middle of the street. I don't have my notebook open.
So you are not in your house. And
No.
how do you expect to follow the class like this? Sorry for my
I'm-
curiosity.
I have headphones and I'm listening, and sometimes I'm watching the screen.
Well, be careful you're not, so that you don't have an accident.
No, don't worry.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry. So what is the subject in this sentence?
Number 6 or number 7?
Number 7.
I can't see it on the screen.
No podemos verlo en la pantalla, prof.
I have it here.
Es que a nosotros nos sale hasta el número 6, teacher.
En la
Nada más
pantalla
que el 6.
estaba compartiendo hasta el 6.
Porque he bajado mucho, parece, las oraciones. No sé por qué se debe. A ver. Sorry, Julio. Vamos a ver si así... Can you see number 7 now or not?
¿Pueden intentar cerrar la presentación y volver a ponerla porque parece que se ha trabado.
Okay.
Ahora
Ahí
cargado.
bajó. Ahí sí, teacher.
Ahí se puede ver hasta la 10.
Sí.
Authorities
Yes.
is the subject.
Ah, okay. Bueno. Okay. I'm not going to. So authorities is the subject, and which are the other elements?
The verb phrase is equipped.
Yes.
The stadium is an object, direct object.
Very good. And then for an emergency,
For an emergency, I think it's an adverbial.
an adverbial. Very good. Is it obligatory? No, the thing is that here we should have authorities have equipped, not equipped.
I'm not sure.
It is optional. So the authorities have equipped the stadium. These are the obligatory elements. And for an emergency is an optional adverbial. So what is the pattern of the sentence?
SVO.
SVO. Very good. Thank you very much, Julia. Walk safe. Number 8. Who can do number 8? No, number 8? Yes, number 8. Unfortunately, no quick solution exists for the pandemic.
Exist is the main verb.
The main verb is, sorry?
Exists.
Exists. Very good. Está bien. What type of verb is this? Maria is speaking. Who's speaking?
Yes. For the pandemic, complement, maybe?
No. No. Exists is an intransitive verb. It requires no obligatory element following it. So what is the pattern of this sentence?
Is be.
SV. Which are the constituents of the sentence, Maria?
Adverbial.
Yes, but is this adverbial part of the pattern? Is it obligatory or optional?
Optional.
Optional, so it doesn't appear in the pattern. That's why the pattern is SV. So we have adverbial, which is the subject.
Solution.
No quick solution.
Solution.
The whole phrase exists for the pandemic. So for the pandemic is the other optional adverbial. Well, who can do number 8? No, sorry, number 9. Rocío Rodríguez, can you do it?
I can try.
Yes, please do it.
Shout, maybe is the verb, the main verb.
Yes, showed. Very good.
Citizens over 70 is the subject.
Very good.
I think it's SVOA.
Well, but let's see the other constituents. You have
Okay.
the subject, citizens over 70.
Yes.
Showed the verb element, and what are the elements that follow?
Um, a noun phrase or an adverb?
Yes, a noun phrase. Showed nurses,
Yes.
and what else?
And I think a variable phrase.
No, look, we have the verb show.
Yes.
Show is typically what type of verb?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Se me cortó justo. ¿Qué dijo, teacher?
The verb show. The verb
Yes.
show is typically a type of transitive verb. Which of the types? Show, tell, keep.
Like transitive.
Ditransitive, very good. So, which are the elements that follow? We must have, if it is ditransitive, we must have a direct object and an indirect object.
Two objects.
SVOO.
Very good. SVOO. This is a pattern. SVOO. Good. And then please tell me, Rocio, of these phrases that we have here at the end of the sentence, which is the direct object and which is the indirect object?
I think, creo que el orden era objeto directo, objeto indirecto.
No.
O al revés, objeto directo, no me acuerdo.
Exactamente. Objeto indirecto, objeto directo.
Ok, vale.
Entonces,
Hasta ID cards, supongo que es el objeto indirecto.
no, supones mal, porque lo que queda es un adverbial de lugar. A ver, ¿quién puede hacer esto? Who can do it?
Nurses is the indirect object, and their ID cards is the direct object.
Good. Yes.
And at the entrance of the vaccination spot is optional.
Very good. It's an adverbial of place. So this is the indirect object, nurses, and their identity cards is the direct object. Bien. Okay. Number 10 now. Who can do it?
Me.
Yes, please.
And grow is the main verb.
Grow is the main verb.
And the subject is all patients.
Very good.
And the pattern is SVC. I think.
Well, but tell me which the other constituents are. All patients is the subject. Grow is the verb. And which are the constituents that follow?
An adverb? I don't know.
What type of word is anxious?
An adjective.
An adjective.
Phrase.
So this is an adjective phrase. All patients grow anxious, and easily is an adverb. So they don't go together.
Okay.
One is the complement, and the other one is an optional adverbials. So we have S, V, C. Well, thank you very much. Well, in general, Well, and then we are going to do the following, which is just underline and classify the objects in the sentence. Who can do it? I need volunteers.
Teacher,
Yes?
I have problems identifying the
Identify.
optional phrases.
Well, in general, the optional phrases are the adverbials. So you have the one way of studying this is by studying the verbs that require an obligatory adverbial following it. Yes? For example, stay, remain, keep, etc. And then you will be able to identify the ones that are optional. The optional ones are these in initial position, as I told you, unfortunately, obviously, not surprisingly, seriously, all these in initial position are optional. Then we have to decide which ones in the final position are also optional. I don't know if I help you with this.
Yes.
Okay. And practice. It's a lot of, once you get acquainted with these types of exercises and dealing with the different types of verbs, you get to know them better. Obviously, you're not going to know all the verbs in English, but the most common, the ones we are dealing with now. Yes? Well, in the second exercise, you have to underline and classify the objects. Who can do number one?
Me.
First of all, give me identify the constituents of the sentence, of the sentences.
Okay. First, the subject, many students.
Many students.
Find the verb. Then the English grammar and indirect object.
Why indirect?
No, sorry. It's direct because complete the meaning of find, I think.
Yes, you find something. What is that something? English grammar. So when there is one object, it is always direct. Remember that.
And then an adjective phrase, maybe?
Yes, so English grammar would be the noun phrase that functions as direct object. And quite interesting is an adjective phrase. I'm going to write it here. So here we have noun phrase, find is the verb phrase, English grammar is another noun phrase, and quite interesting is an adjective phrase. So what's the pattern? What is the function of this adjective phrase? Quite interesting, sorry. What is the function? I find this subject interesting.
The adjective phrase.
Pardon?
Maybe it's another object or...
No. So we have English grammar is the direct object. There is only one. And we have to see what this is. Yes, thank you for writing the answer. Now, if we say many students find English grammar, is this sentence complete?
No.
No, we need something to complete it. And what cannot be another object? So what is the pattern of this sentence? S, so this B, C, sorry, S, B, O, C. Quite interesting, the adjective phrase is a complement. Find, the verb find, just for your information, the verb find can follow the pattern SVO. For example, I have found all my belongings. Suppose I lost them. I have found all my belongings. Or maybe followed by an object and a complement that you say is a complex transitive. These are the two possibilities for find. Yes? It could also be, yes, I found you seats at the, I found you seats, some seats at the theater in SVOO2. Well, let's continue with this. Sentence number 2. Teachers will give virtual classes this term. Who can do it? Josefina?
Yes. Teachers is the subject.
Yes.
Will give the verb element.
Very good. The term you use is very good.
And virtual classes is the object.
Good. This term?
This term, I don't know, it is optional.
Yes, it is optional. And what is it?
Adverbial.
An adverbial, yes. This is one of the adverbials that are realized by a noun phrase. So this is optional. So what's the pattern? S?
SVO.
SVO. Good. Number 3, please. Who can do it?
¿Puede bajar, teacher?
Pardon?
Sí, puede bajar la presentación porque no se ve.
No se ve. No sé cómo hacerlo. There, can you see it?
No.
Well, sorry, I can't do what you are telling me. I'm going to tell you the sentence and please write it. The assistant may send students some more practice. More extra practice, sorry. Write it, please. The assistant may send students. Very good, Erika. Send students more extra practice. Thank you, Rocio.
Can I do it?
Yes, of course.
The assistant, the subject,
Yes.
may send the verb element.
Yes.
The students, the indirect object. and more extra practice, the direct object.
Very good.
Sería SVOO.
Very good. Very good indeed. Well, number 4. Number 4 says, please, comma, teacher, comma, can you send us those PDFs? Well, this is a bit difficult. Please, teacher, can you send us those PDFs?
It can be teacher, the subject.
No, because look at this. It is a question, and the subject follows the auxiliary.
You, sería.
Right.
You, the subject, send the verb element as
Yes.
indirect object, and those PDFs, direct object.
Very good.
SVOO.
SVOO again. So there remains to say what it is, what please is and what teacher is here. So they are, please is an adverb of courtesy. And teacher is a noun phrase which functions as what is called vocative. That when you want to call somebody's attention before you ask a question, for example, you can say, Peter, can you help me with this? And this Peter is not the subject. This is a vocative. Or if I say, students, please do the exercise. In that case, the subject would be you do the exercise. This is an imperative sentence, but I'm not going to say anything else about this. So the teacher in this case is a vocative. I'm going to write the word about, but you can see it. Vocative, 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 which is used to call somebody attention. Thank you, Rosia. Well, and the last, please write it. The participants of the workshop elected Luana delegate of the group. The participants of the workshop elected Luana delegate of the group. Well, who can do it?
The participants of the workshop subject.
The subject, very good.
Elected their phrase.
Very good.
Luana object.
What type of object?
Direct.
Yes, very good. Direct object. And what is delegate of the group?
Adverbial?
No.
Complement.
Yes.
Complement.
Very good. Complement of the object.
It pertenece to Luana.
Pardon?
Que pertenece a Luana, por eso es complement.
Yes, it completes the meaning of Luana. We say the participants of the workshop elected, this is incomplete. Elected Luana is incomplete.
Teacher, the complement is the delegate of the group.
Yes, yes, yes. So the pattern is SVOC. Well, for next class, I would like you to do the last exercise. Listen, have you downloaded the document, the file?
Yes.
So you have it in your hands.
Yes.
Okay, so for next class, please. So I don't know why you were telling me that you couldn't see the exercise. So you had it in your hands. So please, in the case you haven't downloaded yet, do it and complete the exercise, the third exercise for next class. And also, in the handout that follows, handout number 4, within this big file, I would like you to study the definitions of time and tense. Study the definitions of time and tense. You can also study these concepts in the book, The Student's Grammar of the English Language. But here you have it and it is complete. Well, we are going to stop here. And I'm going to ask you that in this class, this last part of the class, only 6 or 7 students have been participating, have been taken part of this class. The rest are listening only. So there are 21 more people who haven't said a word. So please, it is very difficult to give a class without the answer, the participation, the reaction of the class. So try to participate a bit more. So we're going to stop here. In this part, we're going to correct exercise 3 next class and study these definitions. And we'll meet on Tuesday again. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher. See you.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
Well, bye, Cristina.
Well, bye-bye. But I wanted to ask you something.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Wait a minute.